35 years old with 5 children so far. I can truly say that I love being at home here on our farm, being home full time, homeschooling my kids, but it wasn't always that way. It was a time that I was pretty discontent at home, and today I am going to share 4 things that were making me miserable in the home and what I have done over the years to change those things and learn to be happy at home. So as we chat about those 4 things that I think a lot of women who are unhappy at home are experiencing some of these things, I'm just going to be taking you along with me on a nice slow weekend here at home with my family on our farm as I'm making our meals, doing a lot of cooking from scratch with, food that we've raised or grown. And then I've got some healthy fast food options as well that I will tell you a little bit about. We did ship off a steer to processing this weekend, so that was pretty exciting. By the way, before we get started on our chat, here's a quick little apron hack. This is a flour sack towel. So you can just, fold one of these, tie it around your waist, and get to work. And then you don't, if you're going to be doing something messy and you don't want to ruin a good apron, just a good little hack there. Anyway, let's get started talking about our list of things that can make a woman miserable in the home, even when you love your husband and children and you love your home. The 4 things are: number 1, disordered affections and priorities; number 2, a chaotic environment; number 3, lack of skills. This can include laziness, poor time management, and behaviors, but mostly lack of skills. And then number 4, enabling bad behavior in your family members. So let's start with the first one, which is disordered affections and priorities. Most women who were raised in the last 100 years just weren't raised to place a high value on the calling of marriage and motherhood and making a home. We were taught that our value and worth is in a workplace outside of the home, working for somebody or, starting a business outside of the home. And basically, just doing anything that's not related to the home and that is tied to a paycheck. Now, there's nothing wrong with women being creative or starting a business or earning money. Those are all great things, but we've been taught that that's only okay when that happens outside of the home. And homemakers are very often belittled. Lots of comments like, man, it's just such a shame. She seems so smart. Why would she want to waste her intelligence or her talents or her education staying at home with her kids? Or comments, when you hear about a stay-at-home mom, like, what does she do all day? Or it must be nice, or assuming that stay-at-home moms are lazy or something like that, which couldn't be further from the truth. You all know these kinds of comments. This is what we were all raised, in and around, hearing these things all the time. And so even when we get married and have kids and maybe make the decision to be a stay-at-home mom, we can find ourselves feeling pretty miserable because over the years we learned to find fulfillment from outside sources, maybe, from titles or climbing the ladder or just being affirmed in social circles or from a specific paycheck. And, the often thankless and unnoticed work we put in the home just isn't cutting it. It's just not that fulfilling. And the key to solving this problem that is causing misery is to recognize that it's disordered. It's disordered to need validation from the outside and to, not have that quiet confidence and faith that we're doing, what's right, especially what's precious in the sight of the Lord by working in the home and caring for the family. Okay, we're going to continue this discussion, but we're going to take a little break to talk about the sponsor of this video. Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, and fresh pastas. This is such a perfect fit for anyone who wants the benefits of sourdough, or you just love the taste of sourdough baked goods, but you don't have the time or don't want the hassle. Wild Grain partners with small bakers and pasta makers across the country to bring you artisanal baked goods straight to your door that are so easy to make. They go from freezer to table in under 25 minutes. Every month you get to build your own box. They have artisan breads, pastas, pastries, and they even have gluten-free options. They have sweet and savory. There's so many choices. I've been loving everything that we've tried from Wild Grain so far. We especially loved the ciabatta buns. The croissants are amazing. If you've never tried to make homemade croissants, I mean, it can be done. I've done it and they're delicious, but it is very time and labor intensive. And then if you add the sourdough element in there, it takes a lot of skill. I really like having healthier fast food options on hand. I do try to cook from scratch as much as possible, but with 5 kids and a busy schedule, I just can't always make it happen. When you get your box from Wild Grain, make sure to put everything straight in the freezer. You don't want to put it in the fridge. You don't want to let it set out. Put it straight in the freezer, and there's no prep necessary. All you do is take it out of the freezer, put it in the oven, and in less than 25 minutes, it's ready to go. If you want to check out Wild Grain, they have a special offer for Hopewell Heights subscribers. Just visit my link, wildgrain.com/Hopewell, and enter code Hopewell for $30 off your first box and free croissants for life. So in every box you get, you will get an order of free sourdough croissants. They're absolutely delicious. It's one of my favorite things that I've had from them. So you're not gonna wanna miss this offer. I'll put more details in the description below the video. Just tap the more button below the video and click my link. So when it comes to reordering those disordered affections of finding validation, in outside sources, but failing to find it in the home, really, I think we should let guilt convict us, because I think we've all felt that. I know I felt that when I was at home with my kids, but I was like, not enjoying it. That made me feel guilty. And guilt is not always a bad thing when it drives us to make a change. So really just kind of let that convict you if that's something you're feeling. You might not be feeling that, but that is something that I was feeling when I was a new stay-at-home mom and I wasn't happy. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. I should feel happy about this. I should love being home with my kids. Like, this is not right that I'm feeling this way. So let that convict you. And then also, go to the Word of God, because reading God's Word is really just going to, affirm those convictions that we're having. And I just believe give us the grace that we need to make those changes. All right, another quick break just to show you a treasure I found while I was thrifting this weekend, and then we'll resume our chat. I have been looking for one of these for a very long time. I don't even know, do you call it a coffee grinder, a coffee mill? I don't know what it's called, but this is what you use to grind coffee beans. You put your coffee beans in here, and then grind them, and then you have ground coffee that comes out in here. And I've been wanting one for so long, but every time that I see one that looks like it actually works, it's over $100. They look very expensive. So I found this one for $38 today at an antique shop in town. I don't know if it works, but it looks like it works, and I'm very excited to try it out and see. All right, while I'm checking out the coffee grinder here, which it did work. I was so excited about this. We'll talk quickly about disordered priorities. This is something we've talked about on this channel before. Is, it can be really miserable in the home when your priorities are all out of whack. And I am finding, as I have more children and my children grow, that just when I think I have my priorities straight, we go through a change in our life. Something changes, we have new activities for the kids, or something changes with their education. I'm stretched in a new way that I've never been stretched before. And I need to go back and reevaluate my priorities, because I'm finding myself missing things that should be getting done, and it's just making me kind of miserable, and I don't like feeling like that. So that's something that just has to be an ongoing process for me, constantly reevaluating my priorities. Am I focusing on the right things to make sure that I'm doing what I can to make our home an enjoyable space for all of us, but for myself as the mother as well. By the way, I've had this brought me a lot of joy. So would highly recommend if you see a good vintage coffee. Did I say coffee maker? It's not a coffee maker. It's a coffee grinder, coffee mill. I don't know what it's called, but it is definitely sparking joy. Would recommend. Now I have just a few more treasures to show you before we talk about point number 2. I've been looking for something to put over my thermostat for a really long time. Found this today. It's perfect. So this is actually, I don't know, some kind of like maybe jewelry box or keepsake box, because it opens. There's a mirror in there. And this is $10.99, by the way. But the back, it's just like paper. So I can cut this paper out and then hang this like picture over the thermostat. So let's see how this goes. On to the second item on my list of things that can make a mother miserable in the home, and that is a chaotic environment. Now, there can be different causes for a chaotic environment. It can be a messy home, so lack of tidiness. It can be a lack of healthy rhythms and routine and structure. You know, I know structure has kind of become a bad word in like the homesteading, natural living, homeschooling community, but structure is not a bad thing. I'm not saying we have to be militaristic, but some structure is a good thing. It can also be tied to behavioral issues, and aesthetics. The way that our home looks actually does affect us. And that, you know, that kind of goes along with tidiness. We want to maintain a tidy environment, but also, you know, the colors and decor we choose for our home has an effect. That's why we choose it, right? You choose things that you hopefully choose things that you like, things that create a warm, cozy space for you. And not all of us are going to have the same taste. And sometimes it takes time to really develop your taste. I know that it's taken me time. Like, I'm not a natural at this. I do know people like that who they're just, my mom's like that actually. She's a natural. She's so good at home decor, home design, all things related, you know, in that area. But for me, it really takes a lot of trial and error and effort to, you know, make my home into a cozy space that I really enjoy and that I can relax in. And I know that, like, when we first moved into this home, it was all white, and that kind of made me miserable because it's just sterile. It's not inviting. It's not cozy. It looks dirty all the time. And so, believe it or not, you know, aesthetics can really affect your happiness in your home. I know that we should, you know, as Christians, like, strive to be happy in all circumstances, but we do have control over these things. You know, I know that there can be limits as far as budget, but that's one reason you guys know that I love thrifting. I love using paint. Paint is really affordable, and if you do it yourself, that's a great way to transform, you know, the feel of a space in your home. And speaking of thrifting, I have just a few more treasures I have to show you before we move on. All right, a few other treasures from today's thrift haul. This was $6.99. I think this is for brewing tea. Am I right? You put tea leaves? So if I'm wrong, then tell me. If you know, tell me what it's for. But I think that's what it's for. I'm gonna try tomorrow when I make tea, see if it works. Okay, this is a manual little whisk. I had one of these. I've had it for a long time, but it catches all the time. It doesn't work great. This one seems to work really well. At least I, you know, tried it out in the store, and it didn't catch at all. So $8.99. Got a cute little peg rack shelf for $8. I don't know where I'm gonna put this, but I pick these up when I find them for a really good price because I always end up finding a place for them. Okay, I got another copper pot. I have a few of these. This was $34.99, so definitely not a steal. I've gotten them for like a few dollars before, but I just really like this. And So I grabbed it. This coffee pot was $7.99. It's very solid and it looks old too, but I don't know for sure. I need to look it up. The name on the bottom says Blanks Coffee Pot. Blanks. Yeah, but very pretty, so I can use this somewhere. This is a tablecloth and it is beautiful. Yeah, just beautiful. I love the color. I love everything about it. It was $9. It is humongous. I want to say it's like 12 feet long, and we don't have that long of a table, but I want that long of a table. We actually will be outgrowing, this is not a pregnancy announcement, but I'm just, you know, hoping that we'll be outgrowing our table at some point. So picked this up. This was $5.99. He shall give his angels charge over the Psalm 91. I actually had a framed guardian angel prayer in my room growing up, and I don't know where it came from. I'm sure it was a gift like at my first communion or something, but it definitely wasn't like a prayer that anyone taught me. It wasn't anything that was talked about, but I had that little framed plaque in my room of the guardian angel prayer, and I remember just reciting it all the time. And I really do look back on many years in my younger days and think, wow, my guardian angel was working very, very hard. So anyway, saw this and that reminded me of that, and wanted to pick this up for my little guy's nursery. So reducing chaos in the home really helps to not be miserable at home, to actually enjoy being at home. So, you know, take your time by all means, but make your home a warm, cozy space that you enjoy being in. Really work on establishing healthy routines and rhythms that fit your family's life and style, and it's, you know, manageable for you. Work on tidiness, work on behavior in the home. You know, call me old-fashioned, but there are certain behaviors that to me are unacceptable in the home, like yelling and screaming. I don't allow that. That doesn't mean that I, you know, yell at and scream back, but we call it an outside voice. If the kids are using their outside voice and jumping around with outside level energy, then great, go outside and play. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to use your inside voice. So yeah, there are certain behaviors that I do not allow in the home. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. My kids are kids, like they're normal kids. So they're going to do things they shouldn't do. They're going to yell and scream. They're going to throw balls in the house when they shouldn't, but they are also going to be reminded every time that they shouldn't be doing that. And they're going to be redirected to where those activities are okay, because it's important to me to, like I said, just reduce chaos in the home and make it a peaceful, enjoyable place to be. Let's move on to point number 3, which is lack of skills, lack of homemaking skills, which can lead to laziness in the home disguised as busyness. Kind of when you're like spinning your wheels, you feel like you've been running around doing things all day, but you haven't gotten anything done. And this is due to lack of skills. And the number one skill that most of us homemakers these days are lacking, it's time management, because there are a lot of jobs wrapped up into this job of homemaking. We are the manager of many things, our children's health, education, and that's whether your kids are homeschooled or not. You're still managing your education, right? Because you're keeping track of all their work and their progress and their needs and everything. There are just so many responsibilities, and you know, that's why home ec used to be taught in schools. It's a home economy. You're literally running the home economy as a homemaker, and time management is so important. And I've told you guys, this is something I really even struggle with. Okay, this is my really pretty tablecloth that I got for $9. I wanted to show you an up close. So just another little touch to make our home pretty, at least to me. I like it. I think it's pretty and, you know, inviting, and it didn't cost an arm and a leg. It was $9. But back on to the lack of skill leading to misery in the home. While we talk about this, those are indeed massive burger patties that my husband made. They were stuffed cheeseburgers. He stuffed them with like cream cheese and bacon and a bunch of stuff, and then he put them in his smoker. They were delicious. But anyway, lack of skills. Most of us are suffering from lack of skills because, you know, like that goes back to our first point. Homemaking skills just aren't thought of as valuable, so they're not taught, they're not passed on. I recently was listening to something about the 4 levels of competence, and this made so much sense to me, you know, as it pertains to homemaking. So the first level of competence. I believe it's called ignorant incompetence. So you literally don't know what you don't know. You're unaware that you are incompetent in a certain area. The next level is you're aware that you're incompetent, but you're aware of that. And so that creates kind of like strain, like you know that you have things to learn, but you're stressed out about it. The next level is you're competent, but it takes a lot of effort. It's called conscious competence. So you have to be very aware of the skills that you're doing. Like it takes a lot of effort, whether it's, cooking or sewing or whatever it is, whatever homemaking skill, cleaning, time management. It takes you a lot of effort to be competent at that. And then the fourth and final step is unconscious competence, to where you're really good at this stuff and you don't even have to think about it. It's second nature. And I think of all of the homemaking skills that, it really benefits a woman to have. Rewind 100 years in history. Basically all girls would have been at that unconscious competence level by the time they left home. Like it was just second nature to them to cook, throw a meal together, change diapers, take care of babies, clean the house, sew and mend clothing and do all the things. It was just second nature by the time they were like 16, 17, 18 years old. So they went into marriage and motherhood and homemaking at that final like pro master stage, of having any skill. And then look at our generations today, like my generation, this was me. We go into marriage and motherhood not knowing what we don't know. We literally don't know what we don't know. We don't know how to give birth. We don't know how to nurse babies. We don't know how to take care of babies. We don't know how to cook meals. We don't know how to manage a home. And then we get pregnant, have kids, and we have to learn all of that with little ones underfoot. It is so hard. And there is just so much grace for moms these days, like who recognize that they're at that second stage of conscious incompetence. Like they're aware that they don't know these things and they don't have these skills. And it's just really overwhelming. It's really stressful. And my heart goes out to moms in that place. And that really can kind of make you miserable in the home when you're at that stage. Like, you have a lot to learn, but it just feels so overwhelming. And that's my third point, which was that lack of skill making you miserable at home. And my tip there would be just to pick one skill at a time, one thing at a time, take your time and master that skill. Get to where it's second nature to you. Then move on to the next skill. Don't try to learn it all at once, because that will also make you miserable in the home. All right, fourth and final point before I wrap up this video. Something that can make you miserable in the home. This is where I'm actually going to be pointing at myself and those of us who are maybe a little further on in this homemaking journey, and maybe especially kind of like pro-patriarchy and Christian wives. And that is that your serving your family actually becomes enabling. You are enabling bad behavior in your family members, and we don't want to do that, right? Our goal as wives and mothers is to get our family to heaven. We want to assist them in their sanctification. And part of that is serving them and, modeling a servant heart and attitude and work ethic out of love for them. But we shouldn't do it to such an extent that we enable bad behavior and sins like sloth. For example, doing everything for our spouse and children and not having them help out at all around the house. I think that is a major ditch that a lot of women are falling into these days. And, you're going to burn out and it's going to make you miserable. And it's not helping your spouse or kids in the long run at all to not, have them help out a little bit here and there and, have them carry their load in the family, which that's the way that it should be. We should all be contributing. Of course, the wife and mom, it's just natural for her to kind of be the manager of the home. But everybody should be helping out and pitching in so mom doesn't burn out, and because work is healthy and it's the right thing to do. All right, well, that wraps up this week's video. Thank you all for spending this time with me again this week. I will see you all next week. Before you go, be sure to check out the offer that Wild Grain has for Hopewell Heights subscribers. Just tap the more button below the video and you can learn about enjoying sourdough even on busy days.